What's going on, my good people? Mike Hidalgo here. Thank you for joining us on another FCP Euro DIY. Today we're going to be working on a 2016 BMW F25 X3. Today on the F25 behind me, we're going to be covering how to service your front differential. This is going to be applicable to all xDrive F25 chassis, both the 4-cylinder and 6-cylinder models. In front of us, we have some genuine BMW fluid, as well as a new drain plug and fill plug. We recommend you do this service about 30,000 miles. If you want to extend that interval, you want to do it at maybe every 50, that's all right as well, but 30 is the magic number in this situation. The system itself holds about 600 milliliters of fluid, so you are going to need 2 of these half-liter bottles, but you're going to have more than enough to do this job. So now we know what we're working with and what we're going to be doing. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the tools we're going to need for this DIY. For this DIY, you're going to need a torque wrench as well as a couple ratchets. We have both 3/8 drive and 1/2-inch drive available. We're using a 5-inch extension that's going to go hand in hand with our 6.14 millimeter hex. We have a 10 millimeter socket as well as an 8. We are going to be using CTA 7073 to fill our differential. A paint pen if you want to mark the hardware after you torque it. Electric tools make the removal of splash shield hardware quick. And not pictured here, but needed is going to be a catch pan for the fluid that you're going to be draining. Now we know what tools we're working with. Let's go ahead and get started on this DIY. All right, my good people, we are under the F25. Today we're working on a lift just for better filming. And I'm going to be honest, we have a lift. I'm going to use the lift. But to get started, we have a splash shield to remove. It is held in by 2 10 millimeter plastic nuts and 16 8 millimeter screws. So we'll start with the 2 10 millimeters. We have 1 on each front. And then we'll work on the 16 and drop this down. Just be mindful whenever you remove these shields, they can often be filled with debris. So just be safe. Eye safety, protection, face shield, whatever you got, or just don't lay underneath it. We're gonna start with the 2 10s. We have 1 on each side by the front of the wheels. That's 1 plastic 10 there. We have 1 on the passenger side as well. Worse shape, but that's okay. And then we have 16 8 millimeter screws to remove. So we're just gonna work our way around and get all of those off. All right, now that we have the cover off, we have a clear view of the bottom of our engine and our front differential over here. We have 1 drain plug, which is located up here. And then we have our fill plug, which is going to be over on the side. So let's go ahead, get a little bit cozy, and we'll show you how to get that going. All right, my good people, we have the cover off. We're going to get ready to crack and remove the fill plug first. Always make sure you remove those. Make sure that you can remove them before you drain any differential or transfer case or transmission that you may be working on. The last thing you want to do is drain your fluid and not be able to fill it. So we have our 14 millimeter hex on a 4-inch extension, 5-inch extension. We're going to go ahead and feed this behind the CV axle. And it's going to be a straight shot to the fill plug. So let's go ahead and do that first. So we're feeding our hex socket and our extension behind the CV axle. We're going to make sure it keys in nicely to the fill plug. Then we're just going to use our 1/2-inch drive ratchet to break it free. It is okay for a little bit of fluid to come out, but usually you're not going to see any just yet. All right. One thing to know, my good people, whenever you're doing a service like this, it helps if the vehicle was just driven. If not, take it for a quick ride. It gets all the oils nice and hot, allowing them to drain nice and easy. Not mandatory, but I would highly recommend it. This car just came in from a 2-hour commute, so it's still nice and warm for us. We're going to go ahead and pull this fill plug out all the way. Now we're going to go ahead and drain our fluid. Same thing, 6.16 millimeter hex. We have 1 on our extension here. We're going to go ahead and break that free and remove it all the way. Oh yeah, that is definitely due for a service. So we're going to give this a few minutes to drain in full. If you have the car up in the air like we do, again, you want to make sure it's level whenever you're doing any job like this. Go ahead and spin the wheels a few times if you'd like. It's not really going to do too much here, but it may jostle out any extra fluid. But we'll visit you in a few minutes once this is done draining. All right, my good people, at this point, our front differential is done draining. We're going to go ahead and install our new drain plug. If you haven't already, give this area a little wipe before you seat your new plug in. And then we'll just snug it up by hand. And then we're going to torque it down to 60 Newton meters. There we go. I'm going to give this a little wipe. If you have some, hit it with a little bit of brake clean. And then just as peace of mind, I always like to mark these with a paint pen or a Sharpie, whatever you have that's permanent. And I'm just going to go ahead and mark this just so I remember that it's done, it's torqued, good to go. Now we're going to go ahead and fill our differential. Again, we're going to fill until it starts to drip out of the fill hole. We're going to use this CTA, like I mentioned, the CTA syringe, and we're just going to fill our tool. Make sure the end of our fill tool is in far enough, and then we will slowly start filling. All right, and we're just going to continue to do that until we get some fluids start to drip out of the fill hole. Again, it should be about 600 milliliters. So let's continue on. All right, now we're going to go ahead and reinstall our new fill plug. It's coming down to a nice dribble. That means it's going to be at a good level. Again, very important, the vehicle is level currently. That's the only way you're going to get an accurate fill in here. So we have our new plug situated on the 14 millimeter hex bit with an extension. We're just going to reach in and get it started by hand. And same as the drain, we're going to torque it to 60 Newton meters. There we go. And now we'll just clean everything up with a bit of brake clean, some degreaser, whatever you have, just so you don't leave that residual fluid dripping on there. And we'll just give everything a nice wipe. All right. Then for my own sake, I'm just going to go ahead and mark this one as well. Again, this is not mandatory at all. This is just extracurricular, but I like the idea of marking things after they've been torqued down, especially hardware like that. All right, now we're going to go ahead and reinstall our shield once more. Again, we're going to focus on keying it into the front portion of the bumper so that the front half is held up. And then we'll start some of the 8 millimeter bolts in the back. And now with 2 started in the rear, you can go ahead and install the remaining 14, and then we'll wrap it up with the 2 10s. All right, that's the one our car is missing. All right, and now all we have left to do is the final 2 10 millimeter nuts. Again, these are plastic, they don't need to be very tight. And that is going to conclude this DIY for today, my good people. Overall, a really straightforward job on the F25 chassis. If you like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments on what we did today, or you want to see us do a specific DIY on this vehicle, drop that in the comment section below. And if you like this DIY and you want to see more like them, please consider subscribing. We make new ones all the time. As always, thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.